Well, good morning, Phantian. We have today the honor to have you here at the Smart City in this really amazing show, trade show. So, first of all, let me introduce to the audience Phantian Zuesongdham. She's the head division port process solution and program director of SmartPort Hamburg at the Hamburg Port Authority. Phantian, maybe let's go to 2012, where this all begins, because I remember the Hamburg Port Authority was one of the first ones to launch a full Smart Ports program. So maybe you can try to recall how was that, how come you were involved, and let's do some recap about that.
Yes. Welcome everyone, and thanks also to Port of Barcelona to organize this amazing event at the Smart City Expo World Congress. And yeah, SmartPort back to 2012, how it looks like. I could record that we were sitting probably more or less the same as you guys normally do, in a round table, thinking, okay, what should be the next big things for the port industry, and how we could really keep ourselves attractive in the challenge of the mega trends and also the changing requirements on the port industry in terms of the globalization, the growth in that times that we say the growing market on the demand of the containerizations and also the supply chain resilience. And also with the wave of these sustainability issues that we are confronted with, the environmental concerns of the whole the cities and so on. So it was really a sitting in a round table that we don't have like a finished concept already in the drawer. So that's why I normally when the people ask me how the SmartPort has developed, it really starts as an idea, then it's become a philosophy, and right now it's really start to be a phenomenon. So we invited so many people in our stakeholder in our ecosystem to join us on the idea to really buy in these philosophies, to really get idea innovation, technologies, combine it with the process and without ignoring the human factor. And that is really important in the smart philosophies, that you have to integrate all of these factors in one place in a holistic approach so that you become a really intelligent, sustainable, and also resilient port.
Yes, Phantian, but at the beginning, these projects, sorry, they were most of them focused on energy and logistics. But then now you're talking about something else. You're enlarging the scope. Tell us about some of these projects, and that they were based more on energy and logistics, and how you went into other fields, into other subjects or topics. Maybe you can comment on some of the starting projects in 2012.
Yes, sure. When we start about the SmartPort project, so we have really identified some of the problems and also the use case that we have to concur with. And in this sphere, we have set up two pillars of the SmartPort Hamburg program, one being the SmartPort Energy and another being the SmartPort Logistics. In the SmartPort Energies, we are concerning about how we are going to find a new energy solution on the seagoing vessels, and that's why we start off with the shore power supply. And in that sense, I have to admit that we have jealously looked over to the Atlantic coast into the American continent and see already that the colleagues of the Port of LA has already kicked off some of the initiatives, and how we can really import those kinds of best practices into the European continent. And that's why we were talking also with the European Union and also with the Federal Ministry, how we could really get the first funded, partially funded terminal for the cruise terminal with the shore power supply. And that is where we kickstart. It's always hen and egg problems when you are creating these kinds of big projects. But we made it. People were asking also which ship is going to be docked at this berth. And we also attracted AIDA Prima as a first cruise liner really to join us on this journey. And right now we are expanding the shore power supplies all over the port area, on the cruise terminals and also on the container terminals. From next year on, we will be launching our full operational service one by one in the container terminals, and that is actually the one of the proud project that we are rolling out. On the SmartPort logistics side, we are concerning on the infrastructures and on the traffic management, because we see that the infrastructure has to be made intelligent, the cargo has to be made intelligent, so that we can really manage the supply chain at the end of the day. And we are still on that way. It's not really easy to really gather all of the stakeholders in the port ecosystem to really join this technological journey, because they have to understand first. And that's why in that SmartPort logistics, we start off with a very small projects. For example, we have tested in the port, put the sensor on roads, put the sensors on the rail track to monitor the switch of the railway tracks, and see how we could leverage our capability on the predictive maintenance of our infrastructures, because the availabilities of the infrastructure is actually the key for the port service. If your infrastructure is at all time available, meaning you are increasing the capacity automatically without putting new infrastructure in your port. And that from that time, we are rolling out a lot more the project on the traffic management. We put a lot of sensors in our road network so that we can really monitor the real-time traffic network in the road.
Okay. Well, I think we all have been in LA for the same reason, because we also at the Port of Barcelona, we have a project, and it's being deployed, but it's a very long-term project. It's also the onshore power supply. We're starting with the container terminals, and then we're going to go to ferry passenger terminals, ending up with the cruise terminals. And our plan, more or less, is to, by 2026, to lower down 50% of our GHG emissions. So this is a great news for the industry, great news for sustainability. But I have to confess, we were as well in LA, because, and I think our LA colleagues are here, that they taught us a lot. And this is the greatness of these alliances we have among ports, like the SmartPort Spears of the Future, the event today, or the Chain Port Alliances, that it gives us a chance to speed up our innovation thanks to other colleagues, thanks to we can learn from them. So yeah, I've been to LA as well. And okay, so tell me about the new trends, because for me, ports, we have embraced digital twins. I think we're working deeper and deeper on it. We're also very keen on or developing image recognition, AI, but maybe there are some trends, maybe blockchain or more new trends that we are not yet embracing. How do you see the new opportunities, the new trends coming that we should be grabbing, and we're actually kind of maybe involved in digital twins or?
Yeah. One of the main technological trends that Hamburg Port Authority has been really actively working on for a couple of years is quantum computing technologies. Because quantum computing is actually the basic technologies where we leverage our capabilities of the computing capacities and solve different problems, which you need a lot of this computing engine to calculate, simulate, and do tackle with these real-time a large data lake that we all collect every day. And that is where we have put a lot of efforts right now to have the first use case on the real-time traffic management by the quantum-inspired technologies. The project is called Mozart. So it's quite a successful project where we have the innovation partner like Fujitsu to be supporting us in that sense. And it is also not only this technological stack that we have to concern. You mentioned about the AI, you mentioned about the digital twin. It was a single, I would say, toolings and maybe technology. And right now, the challenge of what I'm seeing also in the mega trends that in the digital transformation is that how you would combine those technology more intelligently using digital twin together with AI to be as a hyper automation capability to leverage us to tackle the problems of the port in real time. Normally, we are talking mostly the near time simulation, but we would like to come into the real-time simulation. And another trend that I'm also observing is also we are putting our digital service on the cloud. So we have to think the cloud architecture incoherent with the trust architecture. So with the zero trust network of the port putting their digital service and solutions on those architecture, then we will invite more people, more actors in the logistics chain to join us on board on this network, and then we can be better connected to each other.
And Phantian, let's talk about legal issues here. Although this is a technological panel session, did we forget about the legal framework? Were we so into, the hype of technology, but did we forget how this all fits in a legal framework? Where do you see some improvement that needs to be done?
Yeah.
And by who?
Yeah, I think the Port Authority is one of the leading parties who challenge the legal bodies, actually. I see a lot in Europe. Because when I started the SmartPort program, one of my first project is that when I would like to implement or do the POC of one of our use cases, it's always, no, you cannot do that. Because the legal is done. I said, but can we make a free space of a legal framework for such experience? And by doing that, we are also challenging our legal enforcement body to think with us. They cannot stop us to think in more future-oriented way, but rather to learn from each other along the process. Now we are turning upside down. When we start the projects, so we talk with the legal body already and say, okay, look, we would like to implement these technologies, so we know that the legal framework is not yet ready, but shall we try to learn together? And at the end, along this process, we can even recommend the legislation body to define a good standards and also a good framework for us to operate such a solution and then to roll out more efficiently. So it's like a kind of a mindset change also at the local level. So we are talking more, for example, with data privacy officers. We are talking more with the Senate Chancellery Office and even the digital twinning. We have the digital twin implemented in the Port of Hamburg. And right now we are writing a framework for standardization for the federal ministry on the digital twin building information modeling framework in Germany.
Well, we also had a similar experience at the Port of Barcelona. We have a very beautiful, amazing project. It's an energy community at the Fishman Wharf. That it's still a small developing project because it's just a small energy community. But we actually want to replicate it throughout the port. So we have clean energy, we can generate clean energy, and then that energy will be used by the fishermen, all the even restaurants or even the fishermen, the sailing facilities and so on. And we want to replicate that throughout the port, and we just found out that the legal frame was not ready. So we just had to push it. There was no other way. So I really think that ports have that responsibility. And yeah, it has gone the other way around. Now we have more responsibility than ever.
Yeah.
In those terms.
And I think if we join force, like what we are doing in the Chainport network here, that some of the network members are in European Union. And I also have a very nice conversation just during these 2-3 days events already, that we identify the same challenge that happening in the port of Rotterdam, happening in the port of Antwerp, and happening in the port of Barcelona and some other ports in Europe. And we would like to join forces how to really keep us heard at the European level, so that we can say, dear politicians, we know the problems, but we have also the solution. Let's talk and then put it on the paper so that it could be the wider common goods for all of the community. And we could be the first mover for you, so that we can explore and experience and share that knowledge and insights.
And Phantian, tell me now about the digital book, not this year's, because we at Chainport, we develop a digital book every year. But tell me about the last year. The digital book we presented last year was about crisis situation, how to overcome crisis. And well, that was a very clear answer to the pandemic, but not only to pandemic, probably to disruptions that we all know are going on supply chain and actually supply chain has a lot of pressure right now because we're in the center of, sometimes they say we're in the center of the crisis. We try to be more a solution, right? But last year at the SmartPorts event, there was a presentation on the digital playbook that is actually available on our platform, SmartPort TV. Let me do a little announcement. And tell me about how that project, about how to face crisis with an alliance of ports, how did it go? And what did come out of it?
I have to really appraise working group members that I have, really that they were really willing to share their best practice that they already implemented in their port. And in that point of time, when we start to work on this playbook, on the crisis management, we say, what did we learn from the first year of pandemic? So we shall put apparently together as a really evidence of our learning curve. And we say that it is not only applied to the pandemic situation, but it could also apply, we make it more generic for all the crisis situation, and we know that we are capable of using digital solution to cope all of these challenges, and there are already solutions out there. We just need to apply it. We just need to roll out it into a port, and we don't need to make the mistakes twice that maybe our colleagues from the other ports has already done along this journey. So we can really learn from each other, and we invite also the other ports who are not the member to read and to be inspired by those of solutions, and they could really also get benefit out of that. That's why we didn't keep the playbook just only for us, but also to publish it worldwide. And we are asked also different international associations like UN, IMO, IPSCA, and all of these community of the transport and maritime shipping and the trade network to really expose and distribute this knowledge also. And it was really well received. And that's why we continue the playbook, and with different focus every year. And this year we have on the talent workforce for the future in the port. And yeah, I also invite you to have a look later on the SmartPort.tv.
Yeah, the digital playbook on new digital roles happening at ports, because we need to attract new talent with new technologies. This is already available, or should be available during today, because we presented it yesterday, and it's this year's digital book. Looking back into 2012, and try to be very, very honest, what would you have done differently, knowing what you know today about launching this 20 SmartPort projects, that some of them probably were very successful, and maybe others helped you to learn, but were not so successful? Or tell us, what would you do differently today?
I would really do the stakeholder management from the day one.
Okay.
So in any case that you would like to put the initiative to transform your current environment, you need really to think about who is going to be on board with you, who is affected by your initiative, and who could you need to be your sponsors in different sense. And I would really create or initiate the stakeholder management much earlier, so that we don't need to really just to justify why we are doing this, but rather take them on board from the day one, to let them understand, because the learning curve of each of these organizations are different. Some others take more time, some other being quick, they need also different communication for them to understand and support us. And then you can really leverage your solution and your initiative in much faster manner, because you already win your alliance of the willings with you on your initiative. Then they will help you, they will know how they could help you. It is not just that, okay, they support you just mentally, it's also nice, but it's also very important if you would like to be successful in your initiative. Your sponsor, your stakeholder could really accelerate your success if you take them on board from the day one.
And what about the port community? Because in my experience at the Port of Barcelona, I think we did a lot of progress in terms of SmartPorts projects, and everybody at the Port Authority was very involved, or is very involved. But I think if I had to answer this question, I would have involved more the port community. So 500 companies that, yeah, they do their SmartPorts projects, but probably we don't do as many together. A good example is cybersecurity, because cybersecurity, we're also concerned about the cybersecurity attacks and how that makes us weak.
Yes.
And makes supply chain very weak. So we have to be very alert. And I think that, in my opinion, we were not smart enough. We were not smart enough to get involved the whole community, the port community, because if a shipping line gets an attack, it's just going to fire back to the Port Authority and the other community members. So maybe, and now we have a group of cybersecurity, the whole community, and we also share cybersecurity issues at the Chain Port Alliance with all these ports participating. But I would have get them involved earlier, because that's also key.
Yeah. And I think you made a very good point, Emma, that we cannot just look at the port authority as such, but rather wide port community, and also even beyond the supply chain resilience, meaning you have to go really until your cargo owner, the manufacturing companies, because it's all connected. And the more we are connected, the more vulnerable are we.
Yeah.
And that is actually the challenge that we have on the cybersecurity issues. But we also have another challenge on the climate emergency issues that Port Authority alone cannot really cope this challenge. And we have the issues that if the port community, the logistic actors, is not going to be joining the effort to be more climate neutral, to be zero emission, then the port as a community will not get to that target.
Yeah.
So we have to take them on board already today, or maybe even yesterday.
So you're talking about environmental and so environmental, social governance priorities. In our case, we set up a new strategic plan a couple years ago, and actually all our KPIs are based on social sustainability, so how more jobs we're going to create, and also on environmental sustainability. I also mentioned that we need to lower down 50% our emissions by 25, 26. So 2025 or 2026, and also the economic sustainability, right? So how much GDP we contribute in the region or in the city. Tell me about your KPIs in such terms.
We are quite financially oriented, but also since a couple of years, we are exploring how we could also make these SDG related KPIs more visible for our ports. And we also track, for example, like how much CO2 emission we expose within the port from the HPA and maybe also from the other communities, what kind of value-added services we could create to the port communities. That are the KPI at the port level. But then we have also the KPI at the organizational level, which is drill down into like availabilities of the infrastructures and also the customer satisfaction, the digital readiness for different solutions that we are offer. So what are the digital maturities in each of our business sectors? And these are the KPIs. And we are now thinking about how we can really link the KPIs in different scheme to be like more holistic together, so that we have like really a management absolute KPI where we can see now we are good or we have to improve.
Okay, Phantian, let me ask you a more technological question. You talked about KPIs on customer needs. Let me introduce this profile, BCOs, benefit cargo owners. Do you think ports should get involved in their technological needs? Because we see more and more, and yesterday we had a panel session where Pascal Olivier was talking to us about Inditex, a very big client for us here in Spain, that how sophisticated is their supply chain and how technological is getting. And we also, I think that it could be that sometimes they're not communicated enough with the ports, or maybe there's no need. So I want to know, what do you think about BCO's technological needs for the supply chain and ports? Do we need to work it together, or it's really something that we should be more concentrated on, operations to actually make it more efficient for them, because they are the final users, customers. But do we need to sit down at a table and talk about sharing data, or what is your ERP, whatever? What's your opinion?
I think.
And that's a tricky question.
Yes, I know, I know, because then we are touching upon the sphere that maybe our direct customer is actually have to do that. And I know that many shipping line customers are already starting more intensively to do that. And I also in exchange with the shipping lines, and then also to see how we can go further, because my philosophies of doing business is that it's good to know your customer, but it's better to know the customer of your customer. So because the transportation, the logistic is a derived demand. So from whom are we deriving the demand? It's not just only the shipping line, but the end customer. And the end customer, the manufacturer, they are even derive the demand from the end consumers. I mean, we are not going to the second, the third, and the fourth tier. It's probably too overwhelming for our challenge today, but we have to think about that, because supply chain works like that. It will never change in the logical business, the business logic on that, and that's why we have to talk. We go over maybe through our clients so that they know that, okay, we would like to understand better how we can serve them, how we can serve their customer in a better way to provide a service that they need, and not just, okay, today Phantian is sitting in at the work desk and have nothing to do, and then, oh, I have an idea and I roll out. No, I have to talk with my customer so that I can really know the customer needs.
Yeah, I think we have the same opinion on the Port of Barcelona. It's actually, when you're planning infrastructure for maybe 30, 50 years, you better know what you're doing. So you better go to the source, to the ones who are more into the market and who are, you know, their key issue is supply chain, because if they don't get their products into the market, they just don't sell. And so probably the source for us, that would be, not forgetting, of course, the shipping lines or other actors. We're just finishing. We're going to have just a few minutes for question and answers, but I had the temptation to put this question on the table. It's not technological. It's more about, today we are two women here sitting, talking about technology, logistic, ports, and this is probably not very representative, if I have to be honest with you. Our world is more traditional, man, usually over 50, So how do you see that also evolution? Getting smarter would be also a sign of being more equal, right? And how do you think we can improve it in the future?
I think you have to engage women, and also to rethink about how the network, the structure of networking is going to be taking place. And I know that there are different initiatives around the world, locally, regionally. I'm also in many of them, because I would like to encourage women to think that if you can see it, you can be it. It's always like that.
I agree. We actually have a very beautiful program at the Port of Barcelona, and it is about young women who are thinking about going into a technological or not technological job. We have like a mentor for them. This is a very, very small program, when I'm talking. It's a few people every year, but I think it's good. It's a good sign of what's going on. And then we have these women, or these girls, young women, get an interview with someone who has a very high position, maybe like you, IT director at the Port of Barcelona, and so they can see how the future could be. Maybe they choose it or not, but this is, I think, key to prove it, to show it. I think we have to go, but we're going to have some questions for you. Let me open the floor to questions by the audience, although we're very short in time, what they're telling me. Any questions?
You did so well, Emma, so they
did
don't
you.
have any questions.
So did you. Okay, so thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure. And do not forget, you have lots of information about technology, smart ports, what's going on in this industry, because we're also small cities. That's why we're here. So you want to check all this information, all these projects that the Port of Antwerpen, Bruges, or the Port of Barcelona, or the Busan Port Authority, or Hamburg Port Authority, LA Port Authority, Montreal Port, or the Rotterdam Port, what we're doing, check it at SmartPorts TV. Okay, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Barcelona, a cosmopolitan, dynamic, innovative, and sustainable city open to the future by air, land, and sea. The port is the infrastructure that connects Barcelona with the world. Now it is in the process of transformation to become even more efficient and sustainable. We present Barcelona Port Innovation, the foundation launched by the Port of Barcelona to attract talent to transform the maritime port sector. A benchmark hub that through the use of knowledge, technology, and a dedication to society and the environment seeks to adhere to the principles of the blue economy. Barcelona Port Innovation is a space that will generate growth opportunities and challenges. We will explore technologies and solutions to continue promoting the energy and digital transformation of our environment. Together, we can lead this project with a disruptive, flexible, and dynamic vision of the future. Because together at Barcelona Port Innovation, we construct the future.